We've made some big changes to our workouts since the turn of the year, and we are finding them to be immensely beneficial. And so we want to tell you about them on this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast because we believe that you will find them beneficial as well. We're going to cue our introduction and dive right into this conversation. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we're discussing a couple changes that we've made to our workouts since the turn of the year that have been making big differences in our strength, in our fitness, how our bodies are feeling and functioning. And we want to tell you about them today because a lot of times we get in the same routine with our workouts, and we found ourselves in this as well. It's just kind of doing the same things over and over. And look, that's actually how you make progress with working out. You got to do the same thing over and over and over. But sometimes you can make some changes to that same thing that you're doing and see some really big jumps in the results that you get. And that's what we've been experiencing recently. And so we want to tell you about those changes that we've made. We want to let you know that if what we're talking about today is of interest to you, you would like our help implementing these changes in your own workouts, making sure that they're appropriate for your body, that's exactly what we can help you to do at our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg, using muscle activation techniques. All you need to do to see our availability and get our schedule is go to www.matschaumburg.com. So look, we are clearly not new to working out. It is something that we've done for decades. And I know that I have definitely gone through many iterations of how I work out, what I'm prioritizing when I work out, what my goals are when I work out, whether it was sports performance or building muscle or building strength or whatever it is, right? And so when you find something that works for you, what I've found to be best is to keep doing that thing, to not make too many dramatic changes to that thing because it is working for you. And the more changes you try to make, the fancier that I've tried to get in the past, oftentimes the worse results I get. So I just kind of come back to doing the same core things. But there are some things that I've been implementing really probably over the last 2 or 3 months that have made huge differences in my strength, in how my body's feeling, in my athletic performance. And I'm really excited to tell you about those today. And I know, Julie, you've made some changes to your workouts as well.
Yes, I have, and I'm really excited to share what I've been focusing on. But first, Charlie, let's talk about what you've been working through. I know I get to watch your workouts all the time, and I've noticed some big changes in what you're doing and the changes that you're seeing. So tell us what you've been focusing on over the last 6-ish months, and what were you noticing in your body that made you realize, oh, I think I really need to make this change?
So a primary focus of mine, probably for close to a year now, has been to increase my vertical jump and to really, focus my training on improving how well I can jump. And so, I was lifting heavier. I was feeling my strength go up closer to the levels where I was at in my early to mid 20s. And all that was feeling really good. I was noticing that I was jumping better. And then a couple months back, I started implementing a new strategy with it all. And the strategy that I started focusing on was what I'm going to call force absorption as opposed to force production. Okay, so a lot of times when we think about lifting weights, we think about the lifting of the weight, right? The pushing of the leg press, the pushing of the chest press, the pulling of the row, the standing up part of the squat, whatever it is, the lifting of the deadlift, okay? And that's only part of the equation. There's a whole other side of the equation, part of the lift, which is the lowering aspect of it, or we'll call it the eccentric side of the lift. And what is traditionally said is that you are stronger with the eccentric side, or the side where you're lowering the weight, than you would be where you are lifting the weight. And it makes sense. I mean, look, you can, if you're lifting as much weight as you can off the ground, say for a deadlift or whatever, you can probably put more weight on that bar and then still be able to lower it and control it on the way down. And so that's something that, I've known for decades. but I wasn't really sure how to implement it. I do some stuff every now and then, but over the last couple months, I've been doing a couple things that have really kind of changed my ability to perform athletically, and then not and as well as my strength. And so again, this force absorption side of things, I started focusing more on that, where I would focus during my lifts on trying to lower more weight than I could lift, or lift something up with two legs and lower it with one. For example, if I was on a leg press, push it forward with two, lower with one. Push it forward with two, lower with one. Or doing squats with more weight on my back than I could stand up with, and just focus on the lowering part of it. And then the other aspect that I've been adding in a lot are these depth drops, where I stand on a box. I started off at 30 inches and I just step off the box and just land. I wouldn't jump back up, just land. And so, I did it for a whole cycle at 30 inches, double legs, I did different heights, single leg. And then I went up to 36 inches, and now I've worked my way up to stepping off a 40-inch box, and 40 inches dropping down, just landing. And what I have experienced within my body and what I have seen from my performance, my strength has shot through the roof. Like I am lifting the weights so much easier now by focusing on this force absorption side of things, versus just the force production side. And my vertical, I've made significant gains, like inches gained, over just a couple months, multiple inches gained over just a couple months, by implementing this style of training. So that's been really fun. It is not something that I would recommend just jumping into cold. You need to make sure that you are physically strong enough to do it first, and then you need to progress yourself. Start with less and work yourself towards more in terms of intensity and volume and frequency and everything like that. But for me, I feel like I have it really dialed in for my body, and I've seen tremendous changes in how my body's functioning and how my body's performing, and overall how strong and athletic I feel.
That's great. In the beginning, you mentioned your vertical jump. Mm-hmm. How has that been progressing with this training?
Yeah. So again, I've seen multiple inches gained over the last,
Nice.
8 weeks or so. Which you're jumping a couple inches higher. Yeah, but you have to understand, a lot of guys, when you are highly trained, a lot of guys, if they can get half an inch over the course of a year, mm-hmm. That's a huge deal. When you have the training life that I have, meaning I've been essentially trying to train my vertical jump for since I was 14. So what's that? Almost a quarter century now. So almost 24 years now. And so when you've been doing it that long, you're not seeing increases of multiple inches in 6 to 8 weeks. That doesn't happen. And so for that to happen, it's pretty remarkable in my opinion.
Yeah. It's also been really fun, Charlie, because one thing is, I know all of our listeners know this, but we have young kids, mm-hmm. and we watch how they jump, mm-hmm. And they regularly, because it's part of their play, do these what did you call them?
Depth drops.
Depth drops, mm-hmm. in their play. Think about we have a 6 and a 4-year-old. They will go on the play equipment at the park, and then they just jump off, right? And they regularly do that, and adults don't regularly do that.
No.
And so often we're at the park and Charlie's like, "Oh my gosh, our daughter just depth jumped 75% of her height," and
yeah,
it's no deal.
Didn't think twice about it. She's like, "Oh, I want some water," and just jumps off the wall and walks right over. I'm like, "What are you doing?"
I know.
Of course, there's the difference between being 35 pounds and 230 pounds.
Yes.
As far as the amount of force hitting the ground. But still, point being is you're right. Kids do it when they're really little, and then at some point in our life, we stop doing it.
Yes, and I think one of the reasons they can do it, I think there's two parts where it's it's something they regularly practice. I mean, they get out of bed and instead of rolling out, they just jump out, so there's a warm up, and also There is none of that like mental hang up of like, could I do this? Can I, And so I've been seeing you like work through that, and that's been cool of like, no, I did 38 inches. There's no reason I can't do 40 inches. 38 is easy, and knowing, because that's such a big part of training is the mental component of like, well, I'm checking this box, or, this seems scary, or that seems heavy, or this seems too high, so it's been cool to watch you kind of work through that as you've progressed.
Thank you. It's been really fun feeling like I'm not trapped by the beliefs I have in my body anymore. It's just like, all right, there's something I feel like I can do, and just in what I believe that I can do is expanding as I feel my physical capabilities expand.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also cool too, I think, like leaving that, we're so technical about exercise, or we could be, but remembering that, like, hey, like, we're strengthening our bodies to use it in ways that we think is fun, right? We always talk to you guys about like, hey, we want you to ski because you think it's fun. We want you to get on the floor and play with your grandkids because it's fun. Like, one of the things that Charlie loves doing is playing basketball and like working on those skills. And like, so to see the training turning into like, oh my gosh, I'm actually working on the skills of this sport that I like, is really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But tell us about your training, because you've made some big changes probably the last 3 months, I'd say.
Yeah, it's been really fun. So I've been exercising for quite a while. I would say like at the end of high school, I started like lifting weights. And I always thought there was kind of two beliefs that I thought, like, number one, more is better. So like the more that you could crunch into like your 30 minutes, or the more that you do in your hour in terms of volume, in terms of sweating, in terms of more of everything, the better. I've always held that belief. And even if I would verbally not say that, I've always felt like, but if I could do a little more, that would be good, because I have this time. And then the second thing was that if I was doing strength training, I must be getting stronger. Like if I was participating in the strength training moves or things that people call or label resistance training, strength training, then I must be getting stronger. But I feel like almost like 1 year ago today, we're approaching his birthday. I had my third boy, my third baby, and I felt like my body really took a toll from that pregnancy. I really experienced, I think, what a lot of people experience in aging, where I just felt like my strength was gone. I felt like, oh my gosh, how could I have been working out for years and years and years, and I feel this weak? I feel this incapable. And then the recovery from that was also very tricky in terms of my strength. And I remember thinking, I never want to feel like this again. This is the worst feeling, of feeling like my body is weak, or it feels like there are links or parts of my body that are so weak that I can't even comfortably move about my day. And so I don't know when we started making this shift, but I was like, okay, it's time for me to actually lift heavy. When you do so much, so my first belief of thinking like doing more in my time of working out, when you do more and more and more, you have to do in ways less and less and less, because your body's literally not going to keep up. I don't know anyone except professional athletes that their life is about making their workout their top thing. Because like I don't sleep through the night because I've got little kids. My nutrition isn't always spot on. I get MAT once a week, but I'm not getting daily body work, right? So I have to keep that in mind, right? So what I shifted was actually lifting heavy, actually challenging my strength. I was always doing strength training motions, but I was always doing more and more and more. So I decided to start doing less volume and try to just really kick in my weights and lift heavy things. And it's been incredible, number one, to go through the process of letting my body like catch up and feel good with these motions. Not that I ever felt bad, but it didn't feel like, wow, I lift heavy and I just feel amazing and strong. It was like, okay, I'm lifting heavy and now I'm feeling my weak links, honestly. And then realizing that there's been a lot of chunk of time that I've just been moving and doing stuff. That was my workout, versus actually making my strength training challenging to actually improve my strength. And so in the last 3 to 6 months, I would say like for 3 months, I was like getting used to like bigger motions and different motions. And then the last 3 months, I've been able to like actually like kick in my weights. It's just been incredible how much better my body feels and stronger. And along the lines of what I was saying, like with the mental component, like the amount of times that I like get psyched out about a weight or something, I'm like, oh my gosh, can I really lift that? And it's like, yeah, it's just your brain telling you can't. Of course it should be hard. it's making your body change. So that's been my big shift of really focusing on actually lifting things that are heavy, and even trying to push through the times when it's like emotionally I'm like, yeah, that's really heavy, but I can do it, and actually practicing my strength and rehearsing my strength. And it's been really cool to see how much I can actually lift. And it shows me like, oh my gosh, all these years I haven't actually been challenging my strength.
Well, what's been very interesting about it to me is how willing you've been to lift heavier. You didn't, yes, you said like there was that initial period of feeling like you need to get used to the movements. And then like you bought in and you're like, okay, cool. Like this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to try to make it feel how it used to feel. Is like the sensations I'm going to be feeling during these workouts. They're different. They're going to be different than what I've felt before because I'm going to be challenging my body in different ways. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people want to stay within that comfort zone of, well, this is how working out has always felt. I'm only used to pushing myself to this level. And you fully embrace the idea of, yeah, no, like this is more weight than I've ever held in my hands. And that's okay because I can do it. And what's been really interesting is then seeing you carry that into your clients' sessions because I feel like in a lot of ways you're babying your clients a lot less than you were before because you have felt within yourself how capable you are, and then you realize other people are probably just as capable as I am too, but everybody has this like governor on that is regulating their their brain and their abilities, saying, oh no, like that's too much. And you're like, no, I just busted through and deadlifted 135 for reps, multiple sets, and yeah, that felt really heavy. And now because you've had that experience, you can then relay that to your clients of like, okay, that sensation of it being really heavy, yeah, that's normal. That's okay. That's not going to break you. That's how it's supposed to feel. And guess what? On the other side of that, you get all those strength changes that you're going for, that you're wanting. So to me, that's been really cool to see as well.
Yeah, I think that it definitely has laid over into my clients, because I think when you go through that experience, then you can help others through that experience, right? Mm-hmm. Like I've always felt like, especially because the people people will say to me, oh, that feels heavy. And I used to think that was a code word for, and that's enough.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this is heavy. And then my thought now is like, great, we're going to start signaling for your body to change, because it's not going to get the signal to change without it being heavy. Mm-hmm. And so it's been insane to see how much heavier my clients can lift. I mean, I was so proud. The other day, my 7-year-old client, she did a back squat with, 45 and 2 25s on the side.
So that's 95 pounds.
95 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, what 7-year-old is back squatting 95 pounds? And she only got introduced to this movement, 4, 5, 6 months ago? Mm-hmm. Like, it's so new. So I'm like, wow, if every 7-year-old was doing even that, and that's her start, like, she's only been working on it for a little chunk of time. That's amazing. Yeah. Like, the strength change. So anyways, I just realized, like, my body's literally only going to be as strong as I ask it to be. And when I had that experience of going through my last pregnancy and my postpartum, of feeling that I didn't have strength, I was like, that is definitely not what I want. And I know that I can do something about it. And the other thing is that feeling when people feel like helpless, like, well, it's just aging, or they give it up to something that's uncontrollable. I've also realized, like, a lot of times we're really not doing enough about changing our strength. And so by lifting heavy, I've realized, like, wow, there's a lot of opportunity here, but I had to remove some other beliefs I had, specifically the fact that workouts should have a lot of stuff in them. And instead I've removed almost all stuff, and it has changed my strength in, like, the biggest way. And it's been nice to also feel like my body's not systemically fatigued and taxed and maxed out, and I'm starving after, and I'm, all those crazy things that happen when you do way too much in your workouts.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really cool. Like, yeah, your strength has gone up. your body is, the physique is changing. The way you are just doing stuff throughout your life is so much different. Just picking up our son, tossing him over your shoulder like it's no big, our older son, like it's no big deal. And just like walking up the stairs with him or whatever. And it's like, holy crap, like the amount of strength that takes. I don't know a year ago you wouldn't have been doing that because,
No.
and 9 months ago you wouldn't have been doing that. But
No.
now it's just like, cool, just like, pick them up with one arm, carrying something else and just like on your way. It's like, yeah, it's heavy, but I know my body's not going to break because this is what heavy feels like and this is what getting stronger feels like. And it's really cool to see you embrace that and to see you experience that and to see you embrace that experience.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's just some updates about what's been going on with us and our workouts, the changes we've been seeing and feeling in our bodies and in each other. And if you'd like our help implementing these types of things within your own workouts or figuring out what's right for you in your body with your workouts, that's exactly what we can help you do at our studio, Muscle Activation Starnberg, where we specialize in utilizing muscle activation techniques. So all you need to do to see our availability and get our schedule is go to www.matstarnberg.com, click the big green button that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment.
Charlie, real quick, hasn't changed? Weekly MAT.
Weekly MAT.
You're still getting
Well,
an hour each?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
been necessary, 100% necessary,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the thing is, the harder you push your body, the more your body needs to get tuned up.
That's right.
And instead of trying to play at the level where like you never need any maintenance, it's like, okay, well, how about we actually like push ourselves?
Yeah.
Not to the point where we're injuring ourselves, but let's actually like push ourselves and then get ourselves tuned up along the way. And our gains have been way bigger.
That's right. Well, you know what? I just want to say this one last thing that you just said. You're never going to have your body in a place that it needs no maintenance.
Yep.
So you might as well get maintenance because you're pushing it to be stronger than letting it just get weaker.
Yes, exactly. So just thank you so much for tuning in, for giving us your eyes and ears this week, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watching on YouTube. We really appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind, share this with somebody that needs to hear this message. Leave us a rating and review. We're wishing you a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.